Okay, here we are, episode 7, the graphics card in the Hyte Y60. Let's put it in right now. Hey everybody, welcome back to Gibby's World of Tech. So we are winding this build series down quickly and steadily. So now it's time to put the graphics card in. Before I get to that, I want to talk a little bit about the graphics card I'm putting in this build, why I chose it, and just talk about a little bit what's going on with graphics cards in general right now. This all started back in, I guess, August it was now. And at the time, I had to really weigh what kind of a graphics card made sense with this build and for my needs. It wasn't so much a budget consideration, although, to be honest, the 3090s were outrageously priced then as well. And I had to think about whether or not that extra cost and performance was going to be utilized by what I do. In the end, the decision I made was that I don't need a 3090 or even a 3080 really, because I don't do anything in 4K. I'm quite happy to game in 1440. Compared to 4K, I don't see much of a difference on a 32-inch screen. We have another system that has the same graphics card that does great for editing. It plays games over 100 FPS at ultra settings. And you know, the card performs extremely well. Now it's not a base 3070. This is the Evga 3070 Ti for the Win 3 Ultra Gaming. It's got all the names on it. I've referred to it as the balls to the walls version. And it really is. This card is outrageous. It's a nice looking card, and now with everything that's happened with Evga leaving partnership with NVIDIA and the new 40 series coming out and being astronomically expensive, it makes me feel like this was an even better choice for me. You know, I've had the card for quite a while, and I've noticed the price slowly trending upward. And when I looked on Amazon just a few minutes ago, just to see how prices are going on Evga cards, they're pretty much only available from third-party sellers. The price is ridiculous. The same exact card is $900. And if you wanted a 3090 Ti version of this, it's $2,500. That's more than a 40 series. The 40 series cards are also outrageous, and they have their problems. So being that this is kind of the last of the DDR4 platform, pretty much the maximum of every component I could think of to put in it, I thought, well, you know, at least I've got an Evga card because I've always loved Evga. They've never let me down, and I'm really happy to have this card. So I'm going to get the camera repositioned. I want to show you how to put it in the Hyte Y60 because it is a vertical mount only, and there's a few things that you might want to know about, some things that are a little interesting, a little different compared to, say, an aftermarket vertical riser. So I want to show you that. This isn't going to be a long video because I'm ready to start this thing up, and the graphics card is really the last essential component I need before I can start the computer up. So let's get to it. Okay, so what you're looking at right now is the area that the vertical riser mounts to. And the reason that I'm showing that in a zoomed in form is I want you to see that it's recessed here. And you have 6 screws that hold down the riser. And this is essentially what you're mounting. This part right here. You've got 2 main screws, and then you have a brace that goes across it. And if you look at this brace, you'll see that the holes are not exactly symmetrical. It only mounts this way. You can't flip it over or turn it around. And that's to take strain off of the actual riser Well, the actual PCI slot, as the cables bend upward, you don't want this to get put in a bind. So they cleverly gave you this hold down strap to just keep the cables from putting strain on it. Okay, and I removed it when I was doing all my building because I didn't want that to be in my way. So as I've mentioned before, you know, the cables here, I'm gonna have to fidget with those once I get the card mounted. I'm not too worried about them right now, so I just got them kind of hanging loose. So the first thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna remount my PCI slot down into the base, and I've got the protector still on the riser. All of this is really for show. If you've seen any of the aftermarket vertical riser kits, you'll know that none of this is necessary, but it's definitely appreciated because it adds a nice aesthetic to the case. So, but it simply slots in place up here, mounts down with a standard screw, and it'll look really nice. So let's go ahead, let's get this installed. Now these screws are pretty small. They're definitely not really beefy screws. I was a little shocked by how small they are, but they do get the job done. And as it goes with many parts like this, the idea is not to be removing it a lot. This should be, hopefully, the one and only time that this ever has to get removed. Now, you'll see some dust in here, and let me explain that. I had the floors redone in the entire studio, and that stirred up a lot of dust, and it got on everything. And it's not just the kind of dust you can just blow off. You have to actually wipe this dust off, and it seems like everywhere I look, there's more of it showing up. So, bear with me. So now this brace goes on right here across the cables. Hopefully you can see that. I'm just going to mount these really tiny screws. I mean, they are very small. It wouldn't even be a bad idea if you had like a really short screwdriver. I would not use this is a power screwdriver, but obviously I'm not using that function. I wouldn't. I think you'd strip these out pretty easily if you're not careful. Like I said, they didn't intend for this thing to be taken in and out. So I would try to minimize that. But they do screw in very solid. They don't seem like they're going to strip right out. And, if you should strip one, don't panic. It's fixable. Okay. So that has that portion done. Now what I need to do is I'm going to remove this protective cover, save these. These are great to have. And just like if it was a graphics card, I'm going to line this up and I'm going to insert it straight and solid. I'm not going to fumble around with it. I don't want it to go in at an angle. And right now what I'm looking at is, okay, so this open slot that's up here that I thought is exactly where this went, it is not. What I need to do is I need to remove the next one down and put it in that top one, undoubtedly. So we'll take this guy out. It's kind of weird that they didn't have the correct one available. Okay. So now you can see that that lines up nicely. I hope you can see it. Let's see. Yeah, you can. So like I said, I'm just going to go straight in and make sure it engages the lock. Like that. Nice and solid. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and use that screw, and I'm going to secure this nice beautiful red bracket. See there's tension already on it. You can see that it's pushing that up. The cables are, and that's what that brace is for on the side there. And naturally, I'm dropping everything. The vertical PCI slots on this side are actually in my way of getting the screw in there. So, how do you get around stuff like that? Well, you have to get a little bit creative. So I'm going to step over here and I'm going to get one of my regular screwdrivers. I'm also going to bring an extension with me. And I know this is a little weird, isn't it? I'm filming by myself and all that, but that's okay. So the first thing I'm going to try to do is see if I can squeeze a screwdriver in here, just barely. That's what I needed right there. Just not quite as bulky as that power screwdriver bit. Okay. And that's mounted. That's nice and solid. Okay. So now I want to put this expansion slot cover back in. There we go. So some of these are a little weird, and I want to show you what I mean. On some cases the motherboard has less to do with it than the case, but as you can see, there's a tab right here where this expansion slot goes on the outside, and see what it does is it pinches it and it keeps it solid. Sometimes these actually go on the inside in a small slot, and they do the same thing. They keep it from moving around. So the case that you have might be one or the other. So if it's wiggling around, there's a good chance that you may not quite have your cover installed the right way. So just take a second look at it and see. Here we go. All right. Looks pretty good. I like the fact that this has these open slots, because that is going to help let any extra air force its way out. And that's why you want what we call positive pressure. You want more air blowing in than going out by way of fans, or at least a balance. If you have a buildup of air pressure inside the case, it keeps dust out, but it's going to force heat out from any opening it can find. If you have the opposite, if you have more air going out than coming in, you're going to be sucking air in from any place it can, and that's going to tend to draw contaminants in. I'd love to see a really good test done on that to really demonstrate it. Maybe Gamer Nexus has done one and I've just missed it, but I've always been fascinated by seeing the effect of it on your cooling, on your thermals and everything. It really does make a difference. So let's get this graphics card out of the box. Look at this beautiful, beautiful thing. Look at that. Is that not gorgeous? I mean, they knew how to make a graphics card. They really did. It's such a crying shame to me that they're gone. So it's got dual 8 pins, and it does have an OC and a normal BIOS switch. On these cards, that does two things. It does open up more power to the card to use, and it also gives it a more aggressive fan curve. Some cards, it just changes the fan curve. EVGA was really good about making sure that you had bang for the buck. Okay, so obviously I have to remove some expansion slots down here because this is a vertical mount. I have to remove some covers, and I'm going to take a guess and say I just need to remove 2. That's what it looks like to me. So that's what I'm gonna start with anyway, and we'll see. Let me lock my turntable, and yep, got a good angle. You want to hold on to those screws, obviously, and hold on to these PCI slot covers. I have a whole tub of these things over there. I don't get rid of them. Again, I've got a PCI cover, and let's see if I guessed correctly. Well, I tell you what, this is a really large graphics card. Obviously it's nothing compared to the 40 series, but it's still large nonetheless. There it goes. Ah, did I miss? I think I did. I can't see, I'm so tall. I can't see down there. There, did you hear it click? So it's a pretty subtle sound, but it makes a click when that lock engages. And then you can just kind of look and see. And I don't know if you can see it there, but I'm pointing my screwdriver at it. And if I wanted to remove it, obviously I would have to push it down, and I can see there's a line just above the PCI contacts. It's a straight white line. I can see it's level. That means that I do have it all the way installed. Also, where the card mounts is nice and flat back here, so I know I'm in good shape. Now, it's not uncommon, and this is no exception, have a little bit of a sag with a big graphics card like this. So you just lift up on the back, get that main screw started. You've got one that's got a solid hole, then the other one is kind of a slotted, rounded over. It's kind of cut off on the corner of it. It just helps take a little extra weight off. And I wish they would just make them both solid. I don't know why they do that. Okay, good and snug. Everything looks good. That's pretty solid. Okay. Now we can go ahead and hook up our power wires. Now, I may have to fumble with these in the back a little bit to make them kind of come out of here looking nice. I've got the cable combs here on this side, so I can make sure everything gets arranged orderly. I love these cable mod cables, and having the combs already installed, so they don't pop off or anything. It's just so nice. It's really a nice feature to have. It's a little thing. You wouldn't think it would make a big difference, but it really does make a big difference, actually. And by the way, they do have a Facebook group. They have a page, and it's fantastic. There's a lot of really good people on there, and the employees actually are on there and will talk to you. You can ask them questions about your build and other things. They're so knowledgeable and helpful. I really can't say enough about them as a company and as a group of people in general.
1 hour later.
All right, so there we go. What do we think? I think it looks nice. So, that was pretty easy. I got to give it to them. Hyte did a really good job of building this riser. It's solid. I'm not worried about that sagging down any at all. If anything, it'll lift up a little, but as far as going down, I'm tugging on that pretty solid. I feel good about the quality of the case for long term. I think that you could easily keep one of these cases through several generations. If you like this style of case, it's hard to beat it. Just the quality is superb. There's some other really superb cases too. Don't get me wrong. Fractal makes some fantastic cases. Lee & Lee does. I don't have anything bad to say about those cases. It's just this particular style, the aesthetic of it. It just really appealed to me, and I've really enjoyed building in it. So that's going to wrap up the GPU portion. It was very short, sweet, and surprisingly easy. If you're building in this case, I would recommend remove the vertical riser before you start your build, as well as all the glass and things. Just remember not to push down on the top real hard, but it's solid. I haven't had any problems. Take off every part that you can. Make it easy on yourself. It is powder coat, so be careful. I chipped one of the panels in a little spot. You won't be able to see it, but powder coat will chip just like paint will. So, this isn't plastic, it's metal. The troubleshooting portion of building computers can be very lengthy. So, when you first build and start up your computer, hopefully you get right to your BIOS and everything goes great. And usually it does, but you can run into some weird problems, some very simple ones as well. For example, does your BIOS need to be flashed before you even power it on? Many people are having to do that. Do you have something plugged in the wrong place, you overlooked it, or did you forget to plug something in? Those are the kind of things you generally run into with your first startup. Whatever the case is, don't panic. If you hit that button and you don't get the result you want, don't panic. We're going to talk a little bit about what to do. I don't want to get bogged down right now in this video. I hope you enjoyed this shorter video. If you haven't, please consider subscribing. I'm really working hard to grow this channel so that I can bring you guys more and better content. I really do enjoy helping you guys out, and the more people subscribe and get involved, the more feedback I get, the more interaction on Discord. I enjoy it very much, and the feedback you guys that have done builds and have asked for help has just been great. You've been very encouraging, and I appreciate that so much. It's been really a joy watching some of you build your first computers and getting to experience that with you. That's so much fun for me. So if you're new to the channel and you just happen to stumble on this video first, I encourage you to check out the other videos and subscribe, hit the notification bell. Please join us on Discord. I'm trying to grow that server and get people more involved. And as always, thank you for joining me in Kibby's World of Tech.